in, and off we go.
Oh,
Have a
right.
great time in your life.
Hi, it's Jeff Pulver, and if it's Monday, you know it's time for
Ask the Oracles.
and
Hi,
we're
everybody.
live. Oh my goodness, Monty and Amy, and we have a very special guest today. But before we get to the guest, I have to check in. How are you doing? Did you add yet another book to your project last week?
We just sent it off to our publisher, a final manuscript, 160,000 words.
Yeah, it's about birthdays, and I tell you, it really has prepped me for today's topic, which is reinventing yourself.
Wow.
Well, you've done that, Jeff.
I think everybody here has done it to an extent. It's a hot topic.
Yeah, it is.
I'm a very
We're
strong
gonna dig in.
convention. It's very. I think it's very important. You know, as creative, we sometimes we're misunderstood. But if we reinvent ourselves, maybe there'll be an iteration that other people might understand. But we have to give ourselves the liberty of being who we want to be and being who we are. Right. That requires strength. But at the same time, you know, some people reinvent because of competitiveness. In a business that will reinvent, they'll change course. But as people too, you know, we need to have the liberty to be who we are and become the person we've meant to be, and that requires perhaps constant reinvention and course correction, where we're the ones who are navigating our lives. I always tell people, you may not be the CEO of your company, but you're the CEO of your life, and you should take responsibility for who you are and allow yourself to go into the flow of what's needed. So that's that. We have a very special guest here today, by the way.
We do.
Jacki Smith, our old friend. Hey, Jacki.
Speaking of CEOs,
longtime friend. Longtime friend.
We love you, long time.
You reinvented that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jacki, you're an entrepreneur extraordinaire. So we thought this is the perfect topic to discuss with you, because we've known you for so long that we've seen you reinvent and seen us reinvent. And we kind of like that as entrepreneurs, right?
I think you have to be that to be an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you just own a job. I think that's the difference between being an entrepreneur and owning your job.
Wow. I love that.
It's true.
And it's creative. I think it's just the word reinventing yourself sounds daunting, or it makes it seem like you have to get rid of everything that came before to be this new thing, but it's really adding on to everything that's come before and to make the best use of everything that you've learned up to a certain point. But there's catalysts, right? Sometimes people hit a low point, or they're bored, or they have a loss or of a job or a person or a health crisis. Those are sometimes where the opportunity lies.
I've always said that every adversity, I say that at a time here, it's like every roadblock or every bottleneck we have here. And in my life, every adversity is really an opportunity. I know that sounds so canned, right? Every adversity is an opportunity to
once you get off the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Once you stop bleeding,
right.
and you stop crying desperately into, but actually that's real though. I mean, so you sit in the pain in the middle of the adversity. I think we sometimes I don't want to deny the pain. We deny that pain. It's like, no, I'm okay. I'm just going to carry on. But that's part of the reinventing yourself, is like sitting in the shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to
Why don't you tell people about Coventry Creations, a little bit about your reinvention?
Yeah, because you have magical tools that help.
Yeah,
I do. Wait, you can see them behind me. Right?
That's just a little bit of them.
Yeah. Coventry Creations was born in 1992 out of a total inventation. I invented that word. In reinventing myself, I started, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to make Christmas gifts. So I wanted to go to college, and I didn't have money. And so I thought I didn't have any, so I needed to make some holiday gifts, Christmas gifts for the people that I cared about. And I stumbled across, amongst other things, some candle making supplies. I was making dream pillows and sachets and crappy incense. And so along the lines, I made some crappy candles, but I added herbs and oils to them and gave them meaning. And I did a little ritual around them, which, it was really kind of innocent, that time I said, this is a candle for prosperity. And that's like as much as the ritual was at that time. And then it grew from there. Because come on, we just it doesn't have to be amazing and perfect every time. Sometimes it's like, this is what it is the ritual, right? So I made these candles as gifts, and I had a bunch left over because it's kind of like, you make cookies and the batch was big and you have a lot left over. So I started selling them, and no one had done what I did. At that time, it was 30 years ago this year. And what there was out on the market was 7-day candles, the tall glass, or maybe some scented candles you could get from Kmart, because that was how long ago it was, or Hudson's, that's how long ago it was.
Yankee Candle, right?
No, there was no Yankee Candle back then.
Oh,
Wow.
That's how old I am. And so there really wasn't a lot of candles. Candles weren't a thing. That mostly was unscented or taper candles or utility candles back in the day. So magical practitioners would go get their utility candles or their 7-day candles, and then doctor them up, put some sprinkles on top. And I wanted scent all the way through. I'm too much of a Virgo to have something just on top. It had to be consistent. So I made candles, and I made them I molded them in some tuna fish tins and pop bottles.
And now you have 27 computers in your
Now I have
office.
27 computers. I made them out of, the big thing is I made them out of PVC tubes. That was the big thing. I had 2 lengths of PVC tubes in my basement. I wanted to make them about the size of a 7-day candle because I had a lot of glass. It's completely self-serving. And that's how the Blessed Herbal size was born, because I wanted to make it fit in a 7-day glass. And I had some PVC tube in my basement, and I wanted to make 24 of them. That is literally what happened. And so that's how the Blessed Herbal candle was born. So you see some competitors out there with a similar size, ask them how they got to that size.
They don't know. They copied you.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
But now we know.
Now
Well,
you know.
Yeah, but
What
now you're the preeminent candle maker.
But I
you
think
know.
what you're talking about is that secret opportunity that happens when you do something you love and discover something that you're excited about. And even if, you have to make extra money, then it can blossom and it magnetizes what it's supposed to magnetize.
I was 24 years old, and I didn't go to college of the university style. I went to the college of the School of Hard Knocks, but entrepreneur school kind of. But I just kept going, and so I had to learn. I kind of learned department by department. I had to reinvent myself each time, because every time I had to learn how to be a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
I had to learn
Right.
how
And
to.
now you're learning to be an IT person.
And now I'm learning. Actually, you know what I'm learning how to be? I'm learning how to be a CEO now.
Awesome.
I think this is one of the hardest things I'm learning. I'm a scrapper. I'm a doer. And now I'm learning how to actually the today, in the next 3 days, actually this entire year so far, and it's just the end of February, has been nothing but meetings. I am a meeting person now. I'm going from a doer to being a meeting person, and it's
Well, meetings are doing.
yeah.
I think at a certain point, and we get this a lot, when we do readings for people, and I'm sure, when you counsel people or advise them, there comes a point where you want to change. So either you're going to love being a CEO or you're going to change that, at some point. I mean, that's the way we creatives are, right? You throw yourself into something, and then it either, comes to an end or doors open in another place. And we do try to do it all, right?
Yeah.
I
so it's-
think I can relate to what you're saying, because the same with us, we got into books, in kind of a backdoor way. And I didn't start designing clothes till my late 40s. I always say it's never too late, right? For all these changes and all these following your dreams. And jewelry came in my 50s. Our books we didn't do till we were in our 30s. And things come along to trigger that, or people come into your life that open these opportunities. So we have to be open.
yeah.
Hey, Jeff, how are you reinventing yourself now?
Well, the thing is,
Right now.
Yeah.
part of reinvention is not realizing or not letting anyone else realize that you're reinventing, right? It's very subtle.
Yeah.
It's very organic and very natural. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're now doing something else without even
Yes.
making any mention of it because you evolve into it. So there's that element of it, as well as the realization that, something has to change and that changes you. That's a really hard realization. Typically it happens when you're, it's when you have rituals that maybe not healthy for you and you need to affect change and stop that. And that's really difficult. But it happens also if you're running a business and that business is not going the way you expected or wanted to. And so what am I doing differently? Well, let's see. 2 years into this pandemic, there's this entity, mythical, magical entity known as Pulver Studios, which Lauren runs. I have Jeff Pulver Entertainment, and together we host 4 live shows a week. And we also have networking events we host. And on top of that, I'm producing some conferences. So I brought back to life, I reinvented my Vaughn conferences from years ago. And now I'm looking at the intersection of where the internet's evolving to and the future of communications. And I realize calling it Vaughn 3 is good for me. No one else really has to even know what it means, and that's okay. But I have had really wonderful conversations from that event. And right now I'm curating my next event. Also, back in 2009, I created the 140 conference, which was the first social media event really that brought Twitter into the light when Twitter went commercial. And I'm in the process of reinventing that too. So that's going to be announced maybe this week, next week. And it's really, there's the conferences I'm doing, the shows we're doing live. But at the end of the day, it's really about the people. I mean, what I haven't reinvented is community. I rely on it more. And I truly believe in passion-based networking. I used to do it by having breakfast events where I go around the room and ask people what they're passionate about. Now I do it online, and I never really ask anyone what they do for a living. I just ask them what they're passionate about, maybe where they're from. And I find that creates a heart-based relationship. So what I am doing differently, Monty, is global. Everything I'm doing now has a global flair. I used to travel to New York, to Tel Aviv, to LA, to even to Tokyo. And now, while I may or may not want to travel, I don't have to, and I'm able to bring together people from all over the world for a conference where it's multinational and it's really as inclusive as I could possibly want it to be. So that's kind of nice that the tech shifted. But change for me. We'll eventually one day this year finally publish my Oracle deck for entrepreneurs. That is a big change. I will do that. And I have 2 books that I started 10 years ago that will be published this year too. I should be so fortunate. Because if you guys can create books every week, I figured I could take my 2 old books that never finished and put them out there. Forget about just put them out there. So I am doing that. So that's.
Well, I think you guys, Jeff is Virgo like you, Jackie. I just wonder, we all have our own styles of reinvention. Like being an Aries, I just jump in and don't overthink what we're going to do. I get excited about an idea. Monty's sort of that way too as an Aquarius, but did you guys analyze it before you make the move to do a new thing?
Are you kidding me?
Yes, Jupiter and Aries.
I have so my sun and moon are both Libra, and so I really drive intuition really drives me.
Yes, yeah.
So
I have moon and Libra also.
So I'll get it. The intuition will get it, and just like right now, there's 2 things that are some reinvention things that are like, oh yeah, actually 3, okay, maybe 4 things.
That sounds right.
There's a list.
Yeah, that's a very Virgo thing.
Well, it's good to keep track. I mean, I make lists also, but I think the thing that stops and you guys and we don't have as much self-doubt because we've done it many times. So you feel like you can do it, whatever the new thing is that you have to learn. But I think self-doubt does stop people.
Well, I think also you got to start with who invented you in the first place if you're going to reinvent yourself. Because a lot of people are not self-invented because they have absorbed their parents' stuff, brothers and sisters, well-meaning friends,
society.
Yeah, society, whatever. Who said? I never knew I could be a writer. I never knew that. I didn't know it was an option.
especially if you're a real mutable type person, or, you know, for me, I'm a mutable extrovert. So I'm just who you need me to be. And it took, seriously. So it took until my mid 30s to say, wait a minute, but who do I want to be?
Mm.
Right.
And really started to find my voice. And I have my third book coming out in the fall, the big book of candle magic. I mean, go figure, another book of candle magic. But the next books I do, I want to really be on entrepreneurship and things like that. I'm really excited about the big book of candle magic because it might be a little bit different than your average candle magic book.
I'm sure it will be. Who's publishing it?
Wiser. It's coming out through Wiser.
Nice.
Cool.
And this one's different because it's what I'm doing is my theory is that there's really just 5 types of magic you're going to do. Anybody does one of 5 types of magic or one of 5 healings or directions. It's going to be about money, prosperity, that kind of thing. It's going to be about protection or security of some way. It's going to be about love or companionship. It's going to be something that needs to be healed or something that needs to be cleared. It all comes down to that. Anything, I mean, challenge me all day long. It's one of those things. Even if you think it's like ancestor work or inspiration or psychic work, it really ends up coming down to one of these needs. And then as I was writing about this, all of a sudden I went, oh, look at that. That's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's just really understanding that's something that was really connected. And so the whole book is about that, understanding every ingredient, every color, every going through that whole process for yourself. Like, what do you really need? What is the base need of your candle magic? And I think that's something that in spell work that really needs to be taught. So what's your real need? Because you think you need this, you know, I want him back. When's he coming back? Everybody wants a reading about love and everybody wants to do magic about money.
You know, it's funny because candle magic was sort of the first thing I ever saw, because in the Jewish religion, they light candles.
Mhm.
You know, it's a thing. Every Friday, my mother would light the candles. She came from an Orthodox family. And so I knew about the power of lighting candles.
Mhm.
It's ingrained in the Jewish religion.
I love it. It's very true. I mean, candle magic is so powerful. It's one of the things I learned very young is going to the church and setting lights for somebody. A votive is a prayer. Literally, it means a prayer. So it's really about doing a prayer for somebody or doing a prayer for a thing. It's fun. This book was really fun because it talked about the different types of candles and why you would like candles and going into colors and herbs and oils and different types of magic. Like how did you talk about when you need a little flair, like taking a 7-day candle and smashing it for a little extra energy. Yeah.
Let's talk about, say somebody wants to reinvent themselves. Say they're still stuck.
This is perfect.
Not sure which direction or, you know, how they can kind of go to the next level. What do you suggest?
So this is a good kind of road opener, like blockbuster, I should say. This is kind of like more of a blockbuster. So let's say you have you're really, really stuck and you're not sure where you want to do. So you could take a white 7-day candle, just plain 7-day candle. And you, on the 7-day candle, you grab a Sharpie. I don't have one in front of me, but Sharpies are great for glass. You write it writes beautifully on glass, especially if it's a fresh one. And just write everything that you're doubting or worried about or stuck on, and you just write it all over the glass, even if you're writing over other words over and over and over again. And then you take that candle and just before you light it, just run it all over your aura as you're thinking about all that stuff. So let all that energy come up and just let that candle, because wax is it absorbs whatever's around it. So let it absorb all that energy. Set it in front of you, light it, say all that stuff out. So now you're getting all this stuff out a third time. You're writing it, you're thinking it, and now you're verbalizing it. So I love 3. So there's 3 ways you're getting it all out. then extinguish the candle, put it in a paper bag and put that paper bag in another paper bag. So you got two. Then you take it outside and you take a hammer and you smash it. So now you're smashing all these, you're busting that block, you're smashing all of it. And then you take it to a dumpster, not associated with you or your house or anything. So drive out of your way somewhere you don't drive to and throw it in a dumpster. You're just throwing it away. And you think you're wasting it, but I mean, how great is that? I mean, you just take these blocks and you just, with everything you got, smash the crap out of it.
Right.
I think this is candle magic for the Hells Angels.
Right? And then you just
They
throw
use
it in the
hammers.
dumpster and let it smash some more. And then you throw it and you turn around and you don't even look back.
Well, now this is a new moon on March 2nd. So that's always good to do a new intention
Absolutely.
for yourself.
Yeah.
And we can all get out of our stuckness.
Mhm.
And we want to do it ourselves before the universe does it.
I think
And
in East Hampton, you get a ticket for putting the thing in the public.
Yeah, now people are gonna get
Well,
into trouble.
Here's magic. When you're doing magic, no one can see you throw stuff away.
Okay, good. That's
You
good.
just
I like that.
cloak yourself in your magic, drive up, cloak yourself in your magic, get out, throw it and run.
Okay, it's a Detroit magic trick, right?
You know, we always bring up, because we started the show during the pandemic, and during the pandemic, people have had time to sort of really consider where they're at, what they want to do. So many people have moved, so many people have
Yeah.
stopped jobs that they don't like, or it's obvious who they live with they don't like.
Mhm.
Things that are big require reinvention, right?
Right.
So it does take time to think about it, to really feel why you're feeling, if you're not growing anymore, or if you,
Sometimes it takes a
Um,
pandemic. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Sometimes it takes a pandemic to change your life.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
instead of it takes a village, it
Yeah.
takes a pandemic.
Wow,
It
there's a
requires,
book
it
title.
requires something so extreme that can you imagine? Do you actually want to spend the rest of your life with that person? Do you want to spend the rest of your life doing that job? Do you want to be known for that one thing?
Right.
Mhm.
The answer is ever no, even a teeny bit. It's up to you to make to take a change and make that change now.
Right.
Right.
And people who are entrepreneurial can do that in their head, but some people actually need to be locked down before they'll see that. But I think I always keep coming back to, you got to get in touch with how you were invented in the first place.
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
like
how would you define that? You can talk about like origin stories, because I think origin stories are fun, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think my parents thought enough about me to give me guidance. You know, they were involved in their own crap. So I started off as a musician.
Well, you broke away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to be a cop because I couldn't be a cop. But my father said I was too nice, and I said, no, I'm not too nice.
And he was right.
And he was right. I'm not too nice. No, but I just thought that I could never roll up on a situation involving a child and not beat the crap out of the person who would hurt a child. So when I met one of the hero cops of 9/11, he said, yeah, that's why they don't give me those cases. So, but I didn't become a cop. And then I became a musician because it was 1964 and the Beatles were happening. And then I woke up when I was 30 something and stopped that, and then worked in the movie business, and then did karma cards, and then got into books. So that's sort of.
You don't always know where you're going, but you have to start. You're
Right,
pulled. You're pulled.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also doing what you love. It's like Jacki, you wanted to support yourself, but you invented this way, even seemed like a little way. I did that with jewelry because I love jewelry. So I made stuff for myself, and eventually it leads. Even I think you were a catalyst for my
Yes.
jewelry, because you introduced me to Peter Stone.
Mhm.
And that also happens, right? At the right time,
Yeah.
people supply the information, the help, the knowledge, the wisdom that you're looking for.
Jacki also introduced us to Marianne Williamson, which was a
Oh,
lot of
that's
fun.
right. Yeah.
And that's I mean, we've seen it all over the
I
years.
found this quote that is appropriate from Marianne Williamson. It says, "You must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be."
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
There's something that it's so interesting that a little article that I wrote came out on, was it Saturday, about $100. They started
I saw that.
$100. And
What
then
Now she started a business on $100.
Wow.
and I forgot I wrote that. And so I reread it and went, oh, this is kind of good. But the thing is, the thing that hit me of what I wrote was that it was not courage. It was not courage that kept me going. It was fear. I was afraid of losing everything. I was afraid of what would happen if I stopped. So I was
But that's
afraid.
good fear.
It's a
Fear
good
It's
has
a
a,
good fear. So
yeah,
people
fear
kept
has a
saying,
purpose.
yeah. So people kept saying, wow, you're so courageous. You got so much courage. I'm like, no, this is fear. It's like, so, and it was really important to tell people that I was afraid.
No, it's important.
But
it is.
people thought I was
Yeah.
nothing but courage. And I'm like, I don't know what that is at this point in my life. I'm terrified.
But you did it anyway.
But I did it anyway. And that really is what courage is. But when you're in the middle of it, it's nothing but fear. The one time I got up on stage and sang in front of several hundred people, all dolled up and the whole thing, I don't remember doing it because I was so afraid. But it was but in the end, when you look back at it, it is then courage. It's not courage in the moment. It's fear in the moment.
Wow.
It's fear in doing it anyway.
And I for my journey, it wasn't about fear or courage. It was just doing it. I just actually never, may sound out of context, but when I ended up doing the work that I did that helped really put in place a change for how communication works, I never thought about failure. I was not fear. I had no fear whatsoever. Ignorance. I found ignorance to be bliss. that if you
Blessing.
if you don't know, anything is possible. And so
Yeah,
I
that's so true. Yes.
And so I replaced fear with ignorance, and I just made it happen, and it worked. And so it's my core strength of helping to change the way the world communicated was I had no core experience in communications. I was not in the telecom world. I was a hobbyist. So I had no ground to worry about burning along the way. And the fact that I decided to help make phone calls for free, I had no one at the phone company to hate me. It's like, okay, whatever, try to stop that. And so they couldn't. But the methodologies that I used, I was very upfront. I told people there was no quality of service. This was just an experiment, that we're just pushing the edge. And okay, so it helped foreshadow the future, but it was part of that. And and so there are a lot of other places where I failed. I mean, I've definitely failed at things, but for me, to be an innovator, I allow myself the opportunity to innovate, and I just have to let go of that. And then of course, when you become conscious, because now you're successful, now you carry that success on your back. Now all of a sudden the fear might come in, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But no, I blow things up anyway. I think that we make mistakes. We live in a world where when we were kids, if you were a young kid, you had a chemistry set, you didn't need a permit from Homeland Security. You just played with chemicals and you blew things up, and it was magical. I built little rockets, put them into the sky. Sometimes it went horizontal. It was fun. I don't think people can do that these days. I think they would get in trouble. But creativity, right, is something where we're able to take different ingredients and magically see what happens. So my magic potions were Estes rockets. Building a rocket, sometimes it explodes, sometimes it comes up with a parachute, sometimes I find it. And it was, or it's crayons, or it's but we have a chance to explore, right? And then if you have a better way of doing it, you do it, right? And it's not about being right or being wrong. It's having the opportunity to be free.
Well, also everything isn't a success, and you can't let that stop you, because I mean, when we were doing readings on the show, people would say, should I do this or that, meaning which one was going to succeed.
And we always say do both of them.
We always say do both of them, because it all feeds your knowledge and your experience, and something does come out of that exploration, and happy accidents and things that take you to where you wouldn't have gone. Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, Jacki, how many people work for you now?
I've got 27 here at Coventry in the factory, and then collectively in the different sister businesses that all come together, we've got about 30.
Wow. That's 30 more?
30 total collectively.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And we sell to about 1,500 stores, US, Canada, and a few other countries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
It's very, very exciting. It's very humbling, to be honest with you. That's the bigger word. It's humbling.
Oh yeah, you're
Well,
keeping
because
30.
you didn't know where it was going to go, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I really was like, who wants a candle? I mean, you can buy it. I mean, seriously, do people really burn candles? Yeah. But it was at the beginning of the candle craze. It was at the beginning of, I love telling, I have these 24-year-olds that work for me, and they're like, well, how did you get started? And I said, well, I'm so old. I started Coventry before there was the internet. So I started by ordering yellow pages from different cities around the country.
What's a yellow page?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And they're like, what's a yellow pages? And I'm like, well, and so I'd flip through the yellow pages and look for stores and contacts and go from there.
Well, I
So,
think
yeah.
that ties in with what Jeff was saying about not being afraid, or, having a naivete, because when we all started, we weren't bombarded with all this information about so-and-so is so successful and so-and-so is.
Mhm.
I think now it's kind of inhibiting with social media, where you can see people that are super successful, all the illusion of it, and
Right.
then kind of might inhibit you, like, I can't possibly do that. But we didn't have that. We
Well,
had
even-
our own.
Even that statement of like, I have 1,500 stores in US and Canada, and I have this and I have that, that's still an illusion. I'm still, what you're seeing behind me is in many ways, it's still an illusion. I still get up in my 700 square foot house and I still pay my bills, and
There's so much work that
You and
when
Warren
you're-
Buffett.
yeah. So, I mean, sure, my goal is to, I'm renting a house right now, and my goal is to buy a house this year, and maybe the market's crazy, but it's just like, I still have the same struggles. I still have, just because I have all these employees, that means, my revenue might be here, but so's my expenses. So it's just,
Right.
it's like a new level, new devil. So it's all illusion. But so is the reinventing yourself.
Yeah,
It's just
you're
like,
the same person.
underneath it all, you're still the same person.
Right.
What really interesting reinventing myself that was just a smack on the ass today was I am now considered an athlete. I never, you've known me for a lot of years. I'm a curvy woman. About 5 years ago, I started working with a personal trainer in small group
I
training.
saw that. Oh my God, it's
so-
impressive.
So, I mean, when I started working with him, I couldn't even do a squat. I mean, it's like I'm trying to do a squat and I'm like barely moving and I'm like sweating, 5 minutes on a stationary bike. And I'm like, are we done? But today I did a back squat of 205 pounds. And
What's the back squat?
what's a back squat?
Yeah, you don't have to do it. I mean, you just
So the barbell is back here.
That's
okay.
She
You
does
lift
major-
250
like
She's
that.
major weightlifting. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
did weightlifting. So I had 205 pounds, and
That's
I used to
awesome.
squat all the way down. Well, you're not sitting on the floor, but you squat all the way down and you come all the way up.
Wow, we can do. He ain't heavy. He's my brother, and I can. You can lift me up.
And my trainer said, wow, that's the most I think you've ever had on your back. And I said, well, physically, but emotionally, spiritually,
Well,
there's no more.
You challenge yourself, and I
But-
think that's key.
But I remember last year, was it last year, maybe the year before, he gave me a challenge coin. And I was like verklempt. I think I cried for the rest of the day. He goes, you're an athlete. And I go, I'm a what? I'm not an athlete. I just work out here. And he goes, no, you're an athlete and you could compete. And I just was like, I don't even know what to think about that. I would have never have put myself in that category. But
Wow,
it's
that's
really
a reinvention.
that's a total reinvention. I'm still a large curvy woman, but I would never have thought, like with weightlifting, that I would go into that realm. I mean, I deadlift like 285 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, I'm kind of a badass.
Oh, I know who to call when I'm falling and I can't get up.
wow.
I don't start at 285. I kind of work my way up to that, but you know.
Right.
Well, I'm
But-
not 25 either, but I'm getting there.
I think things take time. I mean, that's an important point in reinvention. It doesn't happen quick. I think Jeff
No,
was saying
so that was, and that was 5 years ago. So I worked my way up to that, and I loved what you said, Jeff. It's not that you start out with that. It's just like you find you something along the way, and you find yourself. I didn't say one day wake up going, oh, I'm the CEO. It's like one day it's like I grew, and then the people around me said, you got to stop trying to pour candles or do this, because I need you to be the CEO. I need you to figure out how to grow the business. I need you to figure out how to export. I need you to figure out how to do this instead of pouring a candle. You know, you've already built this. I need you to go build that.
Yeah, when you go on that journey, there are a few things that do happen. One of them is I've run into entrepreneurs who become fearful of success.
Mhm.
You talk about fear of failure. There's an equal, if not greater, number of people that are fearful. Like, what if it's successful? Are they prepared? You know, with tech, sometimes it's scaling the technology. Does your algorithm, can it scale? Do you have enough compute power? Sometimes as a leader, can you build a company and can you now deal with having 30 people? What if you have to manage 350 people? How do you delegate? How do you make this happen? And some people worry about that. I'm not saying I do. No, I'm not saying I could run a company. The most people I ever had, it was like 55 people, but I got really good at finding other people. And the weird part is that, you know, in 1998, I observed a marketplace. And by 98, I was already running what became the trade show for the voice over IP industry, known as VON. And I observed a market opportunity that I thought that there'd be a spot market for voice over IP minutes, meaning that if you were just how we have commodities at the time, there used to be pork belly futures and orange juice futures. I thought that there'd be a marketplace for paying a price to deliver a telephone call to a location. So I created a marketplace. I didn't think anything of it. I did other things. It was fun. Well, that marketplace, known as a minutes exchange, in the year 2000, there were lots of other companies, these B2B exchanges going public. I felt very left out because I wasn't busy enough, I guess. So a friend of mine found a CEO that loved that idea. And a few months later, he stole my name, he took the Von part of me. And that company became Vonage, and so it pivoted. He thought that being in the minutes business was interesting, but he wanted to be in a multi-billion-dollar business. So he decided, because I told him that the next thing I wanted to do was a broadband phone company. So that minutes exchange became Vonage. Vonage was the age of voice on the net. And what's incredible is not that the company went public in 2006, but in November 2021, Ericsson bought that company for $6.2 billion. Now, I still haven't really processed what does it mean to start a company that gets sold for that. I mean, not that I had anything left, but it was just crazy thinking about this. How did that happen, right? Because if you ask me my intention, my desire for the minutes exchange, it wasn't for a $1 billion exit. It was to actually make change, right? I never thought past that. And when Vonage was happening, I never thought that it would ever go public, let alone grow into what it became. And so, you know, as an entrepreneur, we have lots of opportunities. And by the way, it's not that we get reinvented. It's the way other people see us, right? Because we don't change. It's how the rest of the world will perceive who we are and what we do. I mean, you know, there were times I've avoided going to high school reunions because, you know, I went to my 10th year high school reunion, and the same people who ignored me in high school ignored me 10 years later. Then I realized it was just high school. And then I went to my 20, and then I just said, nah, forget about it. But because I had success by 20 years out of high school, I had success and I felt confident about myself, but no, I got ignored again. So I had never went back. And so for me, it's knowing that if you're successful or not, that's with you, right? And if you're reinvented and you're happy with who you are, God bless, you know? I mean, other people will judge you anyway, but don't be a critic to yourself. You know, you have to learn to love yourself. We talk about self-love, but it's also about appreciating who you are and understanding that you don't necessarily understand maybe why you're successful. I mean, failure, we understand. Success, we have to embrace. But when we talk about reinvention, it's usually how the world sees you, not necessarily how you see you. Maybe how your cousins, how your relatives see you, but you just look straight ahead. Don't look back, and learn to be who you are and embrace it every day.
I think so much of it is an internal dialogue that
Yeah.
other people don't see, but it's your dialogue. Can you do something? Can't you do something? You know, how you deny yourself to take steps, you know, to open up. And our next book is The Art of Affirmations, which comes out in May. But yeah, to be aware of your internal dialogue of how negative or positive it is, and you know, and how you keep reinforcing what your intention, what you really want, because your intention can be to make money, to make a bigger business, or to keep doing what you're doing, which is basically our affirmation, right?
Yeah, we want to just keep doing it. You know, the thing with your astrology chart, it's good to know your chart, because if you have there are some that are really specific. Like if you have a what's called a grand cross, where you have two oppositions at 90 degrees to each other, there's a really good chance that you'll be this, and then you'll explore this, and then you'll explore that.
You mean all in for this?
Oh yeah,
and
exactly.
all in for that.
Yeah, and if your
Different
chart,
different chapters in your life.
yeah, because the chart looks like a pizza. If all the toppings are on like a couple of slices, you're pretty much gonna stay there. But if it's all splayed out, you're gonna explore a lot of those different toppings. And as you explore the toppings, there's going to be part of you that said, did I fail at the last topping? And you got to love yourself, like Jeff said, because, you know, I've done so many things. Did the music business work for me? I don't know. I mean, I kind of,
Well,
A, I don't remember it, and B, you know, I had fun. So,
And it led you to the next thing.
right. So you got to love yourself, and you can't fault yourself for the fact that your last invention of yourself wasn't everything you wanted to be, or
Well,
else
you
you
mean
wouldn't be where you are now.
Perfectionism.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really important for that reinventing yourself, there's a couple things that Jeff said that really struck home really hard, is that number one, just go do it.
Yeah, really.
Just go do it. And, you know, somebody chatted like, I'm afraid they're talking about starting an LLC. Just start it. There's nothing, that's a piece of paper. Who cares? It's just a piece of paper. Number one. Number two, when you're a disruptor, Jeff is a disruptor, I'm a disruptor, Amy and Monty are disruptors in our industry.
Jeff's a real disruptor.
Massive disruptor. I mean, I can feel it from here.
He's the Toro.
Disruptors are generally not the mega billionaires. We're you know, like we're like, we disrupt, and then
We're not.
oh, what a great idea, you know, and then other people come on.
Pioneers get shot in the back with arrows, right?
Yes, right.
Those are the pioneers.
Yeah, yeah. So because we're all about the change and the mission and the vision, rather than the money. So, and I had to come to terms with that's okay.
It is okay.
It's totally okay, because I've got an amazing life. And I've had an amazing life along the way. Even the struggle points that I've had along the way, the times when I was like looking at my kid and looking at my husband going, where are we going to get money for dinner, for food, you know, during the process of, listen, there was years when I didn't pay myself. There was a 2-year stretch where I literally did not pay myself. I paid everybody else so we could have stuff to make candles with. And my husband wasn't making a lot of money, but I didn't pay myself. And there's a whole nother stretch of years where I got one paycheck for everyone else's too. And that's,
did you add skills that helped you achieve?
oh,
more
absolutely.
success? Yeah. So I think that's what's missing sometimes, because people ask us about publishing books or this or that. There are skills we have to learn about every industry, and people skills too. Who does what, who can be part of the team, who, you know, what you can find in yourself, you know, to enhance your gifts. It's basically learning to use the gifts that you were given, the talents you were given, and to really make those grow, you know.
One of the biggest skills, whatever journey you're on, one of the most important skills anyone will ever foster is interacting with other people, is networking, is community. Because
Schmoozing.
The schmoozing, that I schmooze. This is how I met Amy and Monty. I schmoozed the shit out of them.
Glad you did.
How you doing? I got candles. How you doing? You know, literally. Because when we went, I met you at the INATS International, right? That's where we met, I think. Yeah.
Thanks,
so because I would go to the International New Age Trade Show which is funny because it's really not new age anymore.
No, it's not international.
It's definitely not international. So I would go there and I would schmooze, and I would go there with enough money to get bread and peanut butter and jelly to eat. I mean, and I looked like a bigger deal than I was. And I would sell enough to like buy some food and to get home. But and I would schmooze, and that's how we met. And
that's another thing. You helped us.
Yeah.
I think, you put out energy and it comes back to you. I mean, generosity.
Yeah, we're so
always
glad we met you.
Yeah, it always pays off.
I wish I had it handy, because I just came across pictures of our joint projects.
I remember stuffing bags.
Like 300 bags.
300 bags. That you would probably do this too, Jeff and Lauren. Stuffing the stuff for the conventions.
Gift bags.
Yeah, because I still have my Vaughn bag. My my little briefcase. I have it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and it had all kinds of stuff in it. And then I remember we did that. We had the Enchanted World bags. But I always come back to the people that are watching this. Not only are you oracles, because it's all about Ask the Oracles, everybody's reinventing themselves all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you're a different age. The world requires you to reinvent yourself now, because now we all have to be monks in caves. But though that's coming out now, I don't want to get into politics or anything else. But things are changing. You
can't help it because you're an Aquarius.
No, but things are changing. Everybody knows that things are changing.
Big time.
And it's going to get better, I think.
I have a statistic to share that I came across. It says on average, it takes 66 days before a behavior becomes automatic, which is like your weightlifting or whatever you're learning, whatever new thing is. That's interesting, right? It doesn't sound like that long, 66 days to make a big change in your life.
It's 66 consistent days in a row.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not like I learned that
one. A day 10 years ago, and I did it last year.
A day
it's like, every other day I did, but 66 consistent days in a row. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think we can all afford 66 days to change, right?
Yeah, I've been getting into doing push-ups every day in a particular way. So maybe in 66 days.
I've been doing TikTok every day.
We're really talking about creating habits and changing habits and basically finding things that become a change agent for how you do things.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's because it's really how do you change your life in a way that you stay consistent with it, stay on point. So it's not a passing fad for yourself. So 66 sounds like a reasonable amount of time, because if on the other side in advertising, if you placing an ad in some trade publication and you want to make an impression, typically it's at least used to be anyway, you had to make 9 impressions for someone to remember it once.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
No wonder.
I wish I had known.
Jeff, do you think it's more now because
Yeah.
of the over?
I think
now it's 900.
But it's commitment, isn't it? We're talking about commitment, like Jackie, when you said that you did without and you didn't pay yourself, you were committed.
I should have been
your
committed.
vision, right?
So, but one of the things I wanted to say about connecting with people and this reinventing yourself and this, which really connects with the Oracle, is that pay attention to who you're connecting with, because they become that Oracle. You become them, they become you. They're your influence. I mean, that's the first influencers in your life. Before you get into the social media, there's your social, first social, in your face, but because we validate each other. We validate each other's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you need that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
your cheerleaders.
Amy, Monty, and I, we those first years we were working together, we were on the phone a lot. We were on emails a lot. And there are times when, one of the most important phone calls we had for me was that when I was talking to the two of you and I'm like, you guys are so successful in all these different things. And the first thing you did was laugh. And the second thing you did was I said, like, how are you doing it? And they said they use the pasta principle. They throw it all up on the wall and they see what sticks. And And that's, and I've held to that. It's like, okay, well, what's going
Uh,
to stick today? And so those are the that's why it's so important you pay attention to who you allow to influence you. And that's part of that reinvention, because I very easily reinvented myself in the wrong way several times because I had the wrong people in my life. I had
That's a good
crazy.
point. That's a very good point. You gave me goosebumps, with that memory. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
You should see our wall. We got a lot of pasta marks. I know. Yeah, but the thing is that people are like, you guys do so many books. Well, we do, and we don't. But we don't have children.
Also, I mean, I think Jackie kind of touched on this. What is propelling you? I mean, we did have to make a living. We wanted to make a living from our art. These are like this little list you make for yourself. I only want to make a living from my art, and I have to make money from it. And, then, but like for my clothes, I would make it for myself, and then I'd wear it out. And then I ran into an old friend who said, I can sell these, and I happen to work at Bergdorf's. There's these things that you're passionate about. Like I loved making them for myself. And like you, dabbling in the candles to begin with. There's something about passion to begin with.
Right.
That starts that fire, that's the spark.
Well, listen, when you say the word passion, you got to give Jeff money because he owns that word.
Passion. She said passion. Finally, we heard that word, passion. Yeah.
Great.
No, it's true.
That's the candle flame, right?
Well, a lot of our work comes out of the fact that Amy's an amazing artist. We want to get our art out to the world. And I luckily got karma cards sold. And then they were,
but you didn't know you were going to be an author.
No, I thought I was a game inventor. And then they said, well, what else you got? And then it was the Enchanted Tarot. And the Enchanted Tarot that Marianne Williamson used and told you about it somehow. And then that's why she wanted to meet us. And that's why we ended up doing a sleepover there.
So that's the magic, right?
And I never met her. It's like I heard it through somebody else, and then I still never met her. I've never met her.
Jackie said to me, and this was so many years ago, she
crazy.
said, you have to come to Detroit. Marianne Williamson has a church here, and you should have a show there. It was all like, okay.
Yeah. Well,
I connected you through different people, and I still never met her. I mean, except for that one time in the foyer of her house.
That's right. We ended up sleeping at her house.
that was weird. And then we just saw her the other day on Bill Maher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then she ran for president. I mean, you
I'm
never
sure she
know.
didn't know she was going to run for president.
Well, she might have known. She might have, but it just goes to show as you
I
reinvent.
think there's a karma too about who we were meant to cross your path. Same with Jeff, same with Lauren. There's these invisible strings of karma that also you have to be aware of, or else you don't take that opportunity.
Well, I always think about what Wayne Gretzky said, who I actually met when I was Michael J. Fox's bodyguard,
Right.
which is that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
And that really comes down to, it's really the key to everything when you think about it.
Right.
Because so what's the worst that's going to happen if
That's
you try and
what you
reinvent
say, yeah.
yourself?
If you fail, it's not so bad.
If you don't ask, the answer is no, right? It's
Right. Or as he was unfortunately not a nice person, but as Henry Ford said, whether you think you can do something or you think you can't do something, you're right.
You're right.
But bring that into reinvention, right? Because I believe that we all have the right to be who we want to be, the right to reinvent, the right to be who, and if you feel to be a certain way, to say your name is a certain way, you could be whoever you want to be and explore, right? We are the ones, unfortunately, who hold back more than anyone else. We're the ones who do the most harm. We're the ones who bring doubt upon ourselves. Others may amplify it, but we learn to be strong, to find our light that brings us forward. We can do things that no one else could ever do. No one will ever stop us from being who we want to be if we believe in us. And we find that passion and we find that light and we share it. We don't have to be right. Innovation happens because no one else was doing it. If everyone else thought what you was doing was a great idea, they'd all be doing it, right? It takes the courage to be who you are, to have your strength, to innovate and help change the world one bite at a time.
Yeah.
I thank all of you for being those innovators, to taking the chance, to finding others to believe in. And one of the best gifts you can ever give someone is to believe in them.
Yes,
Yes.
100%, because I think we all have friends who don't want us to be a different person. They want us to be who they knew when we were
Well,
kids.
that happens when people stop drinking, right?
Yeah,
Relationships fall apart
because it was based
on
on
that.
yeah. I have friends I don't see anymore because, I'll say something and then they'll just be, oh, you're full of crap or whatever. But you know what I mean? Maybe I'm not saying it right, but they sort of don't want to let you be who you are now.
Well, this younger generation, I have a lot of young folks who work for me, and as much as it drives me kind of, it challenges me. They, and then the different pronouns, and that changes. So I'll hire someone today, and then in a couple months later it changes, and a couple months later again it changes, and they change their names frequently. But it goes right back to what Jeff said. I'm like, okay, all right, as long as I don't have to change your email address, because once you pick that email, we're done. I'm not changing your email, but and
you can always lift them up and throw them around.
Exactly, because they're short. But it's like really this generation deciding that I am going to be somebody different. I mean, every generation has their variation on what transformation, what are they going to reinvent? And this is what's being reinvented right now. And I got to give it to them. They're really bringing it home, and they're really just staying the course of like, I'm non-binary, or I'm trans, or what am I going to be? And I'm not going to fit into your boxes. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to honor this. And
I'm going to honor this and make the candles, for God's sake.
Yeah. And just pour the candles and make sure the wick is center. That's all I'm asking.
I think another point, just to bounce off that, is not to compare yourself to anybody else. Because if I thought about how many artists there are in the world, or how many tarot decks there are in the world, or how many writers, we just like give up. Why should I? But you have to kind of block that out to follow your own path.
And as an inventor, I like to think of myself, you have to remember that you are going to think someone must have done this before.
And maybe they did in a different way.
Maybe they did, but you can get a patent for a different use for an existing technology. So
last night, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jeff, what'd you say?
I got the 1-minute warning from our friendly producer.
Oh, well, then you should do the wrap up because you're good at that.
I just want to say it's been an absolute thrill to be here as to co-host today's show, and really to start the conversation of reinvention with magic. And we're truly honored to have you, Jacki. It's wonderful to be part of your journey, to listen to your journey. You're truly inspirational. Monty and Amy, you guys are the inspiration of my week every week, and I thank you for this. I give a shout out to Lauren for dealing with me every day.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. And really, today's show is very special. And really, I thank all of you for watching, for listening, for participating. Really, shout out to Joyce and Michelle, Marie, and everyone else who's been in the chat. I've been listening more than watching the chat, but I'm really grateful for all of you. And as I say every Monday when it comes this time of day, if it's Mondays, it's time for
Ask the Oracles.
And we'll be back next week, same time. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our community. We love and like to all.
Yeah.
Thank you.